Hello Guardians. Raiding is one of the most satisfying activities in Destiny. Both Vault of Glass and Crota's End are tough, hectic mechanics-based missions that take team coordination and communication to successfully overcome, rewarding players with top-grade weapons, armour and customization items. Needless to say, raids are the most rewarding activity in Destiny, well worth the time it takes to complete them, with the chance of receiving some of the best weapons in the game, such as the coveted Elemental Primaries, or the mythical Vex Mythoclast, as well as special sets of raid armour. After playing through both the Vault of Glass and Crota's End, as well as the release of House of Wolves minus a raid, I began to wonder how a Fallen raid might be if one had been included, or if Bungie decided to release one in the future. How it would play, what encounters it would have, and what kind of environment it would take place in. After some lengthy thought and brainstorming, in my head I was able to design a Fallen themed raid with which to share with you. Before I kick things off describing the encounters, I want to briefly go over the overarching theme of my Fallen themed raid, to provide some context to the events that transpire within it. The mission description reads: King's Gambit. A Fallen dreadnought, bearing the colours of the Fallen House of Kings, has appeared through slip space in orbit above Earth, heading towards the city. Intercept the Fallen ship and prevent it from reaching its destination. I decided that a Fallen raid would be best on board some kind of spaceship, as another raid taking place underground would be too samey and would fit better with the theme of the Fallen as a race. My favourite missions regarding the Fallen usually take place on board a Fallen ship like the Winterkel on Venus or the Shadow Thief Strike on the Moon, so I felt that for the raid a Fallen warship in space would provide the perfect location for a raid. As for the House of Kings being the main opponents instead of, say, the new opponents, the House of Wolves, due to the Wolves appearing as one of the main foes inside the Prison of Elders, and the House of Kings making few appearances in the game so far, it would be awesome to encounter new House of Kings characters and learn more about them. Anywho, on to the first encounter. The Outer Hull / Drill section. As the mission starts, the fire team finds itself spawning in on the outer hull of the ship. From the ship you can see the Earth in the distance, with debris slowly floating over their heads as the ships move closer to the planet. They will soon notice that they are unable to double jump or glide, and that their jump height has been halved. This is due to their feet magnetising to the hull to prevent them from floating off into space. They'll walk for 30 seconds to an objective waypoint until a large drill will transmat onto the ground. This drill functions in the same way as building the pillar from the first phase of the vault, needing to be defended so they can drill for the hull to provide a way inside. As the drill activates, hatches on the ground will open up, spawning in wave after wave of shanks. Interspersed throughout the waves will be major versions of the various specialty shanks, each with a variety of shields. These shanks would help to provide more challenge than normal shanks usually pose, as well as making the Prison of Elders weapons that have shank burn on them have some utility outside of one-shotting the already weak shanks. After about 5 minutes of shank killing, the drill will finish its task, transmatting off the ship's hull, allowing the fire team to drop into the hole it creates. The team will drop into a small collection of corridors filled with dregs and vandals, blasting their way through these mobs until they reach the next section of the raid, the forward gun batteries. Gun battery / the Twins. The fire team will come through a door and walk into a large open room with large crates, computer consoles and generators. At the far end of the room is a large force field looking out into space, with 3 large cannons pointing out of it. These guns are the most destructive weapons on board the Fallen Dreadnought and need to be destroyed if the city is to stand any chance against the oncoming threat. You cannot simply G-horn the turrets, as they are immune to gunfire. To destroy them, a mine must be placed on each turret to successfully destroy them. Once a mine has been placed on each cannon, the fight will begin proper. 3 separate servitors will spawn into the room, each protected by a group of 6 Vandal shield bearers. Shield bearers will be a new Fallen enemy type, wielding a thin ether shield similar in shape to a Roman legionary shield, as well as spears which they can melee with and throw at a range. If hit, these shields will make bullets bounce off, possibly ricocheting into other guardians, so watch your fire. A Grimoire card would read: If only ever encountered these Fallen warriors on board their larger vessels. If encountered in tight corridors or in large groups, they can prove to be tenacious and formidable foes, slowing the progress of Guardians as they march in slow lockstep. These shield bearers will move slowly in a line in front of the servitors with which they spawned in, protecting them from harm. If the servitors reach the turrets, they will dismantle your mines. Or if they do so, the enemies will despawn and the room will be vented into the vacuum of space, causing a wipe. You must hold these enemies off for 6 minutes until the mines detonate, destroying the ship's main cannons. Once this has been done, and the turrets are destroyed, mop up the last of the resistance. As you have killed the last of the shield bearers and servitors, a fresh wave of dregs, vandals, captains, and shanks will spawn. Kill a wave or 2 of these enemies and the next encounter in this section will begin. Enter the twins. Their grimoire card reads, "These 2 fallen baronesses are infamous even for the mysterious house to which they belong. Nakaris has decimated many a Guardian fire team with her modified Scorch Cannon, often revelling in the destruction she brings. Her sister Nakraxt, on the other hand, wields a giant ether shield capable of sending bullets back to whoever fired them with unerring accuracy. If you encounter these 2, Vanguard Archives recommend a hasty retreat." There are 2 mechanics in this fight. The first being Nakraxt's ether bubble. Every so often she will pop a bubble similar to the Titan's bubble, which will protect both her and her sister, slowly injure any Guardians inside, and will explode outwards causing damage to anyone nearby. As well as this, any bullets fired at the bubble will be held in the shield, being fired outwards towards nearby Guardians when the shield explodes. The bubble can be destroyed early, stunning Nakraxt, temporarily allowing for some damage to be dealt to her and her sister. However, the shield can only be destroyed by a super attack that causes damage, for example Golden Gun, Fist of Havoc, Nova Bomb, Arc Blade or Sunsinger grenades. Waves of dregs and vandals will spawn regularly, allowing Guardians to charge their supers with kills. Nakaris has no special mechanic, simply sticking close to her sister, firing regularly with her Scorch Cannon. The second mechanic requires communication from the whole fire team. If one of the twins dies, the other will become enraged, moving twice as fast, dealing extra damage and attempting melee attacks constantly against the nearest Guardians. To defeat them, as well as minimising the threat caused by the enrage, the fire team must make sure that they manage the health of both enemies, ensuring that they both take an equal amount of damage so that when one dies, the other's enrage should prove to be less of a threat due to their health already being low. Theoretically, you wouldn't have to manage their health in this fashion, it would make the fight more hectic and stressful than it needs to be. This mechanic will return later on in the raid, however. Once both are dead, one Guardian must pick up the modified Scorch Cannon and another pick up the Ether Shield from the fallen twins, heading for the doors which the bosses first entered the room. The shield functions in the exact same way as the relic from the Vault of Glass, minus the L1 shield ability. Instead it has only the melee abilities, so Strike, Dash Strike and Ground Slam. Its super creates an Ether Shield much like the boss that wielded it uses. This shield however must be activated with every fire team member standing nearby, as it won't allow them in or out for its duration. This plays into the next encounter's mechanics. As well as this, the cannon user will notice that their Scorch Cannon has infinite ammo and has started charging a super attack that when activated will fire a supercharged Scorch Blast. When fired, this blast will start a 2-minute debuff on the cannon user, preventing them from firing for the duration of the debuff. However, unlike the shield from the Vault of Glass, it can be dropped and the Guardian can carry on firing with their other weapons until the debuff timer ends. Now that special weapons have been picked up, the fire team again must fight their way through a collection of corridors until they reach the Central Shank AI Core. Control Shank. The fire team runs into the Dreadnought's Central Shank control room. Suspended from the ceiling by cables and steaming pipes is essentially a giant shank. This is the Control Shank. Its grimoire card would read, "Many Guardians have hypothesized what drives the Shanks, often seen hovering around fallen warbands. Is each one controlled by its own individual AI? Are they controlled by the mysterious servitors? Or is there something else, somewhere distant that sees what they see and directs them accordingly? If that's the case, I hope to high heaven it's as easy to break as its smaller cousins." Unlike other raid bosses, the Control Shank itself does not fight you. Instead it summons wave after wave of major and non-major Shanks, as well as engineer dregs encountered aboard fallen vessels. These dregs' capability to revive fallen Shanks makes them an important target during firefights inside the tight confines of the cache. As stated in their description, these engineer dregs revive dead Shanks, minus exploder Shanks, thus making them an important target to kill on the battlefield. Shanks might not be a major threat, but when you are dealing with a constant horde of fresh waves of them, as well as Shanks who just killed, with their weight of fire adds up. This is where the challenge in this fight would stem from. Managing the adds and taking out the engineers as quickly as possible after they spawn to prevent your fire team from being overwhelmed. Now on to fighting the Control Shank itself. You will notice when walking in that it has an impervious shield, much like the one on the Templar in the vault. The shield is only capable of being knocked down by a supercharged blast from the Scorch Cannon, making the wielder of the cannon instrumental to defeating it. Every time its shield is knocked down and then recharges after it has received small arms damage, it will summon in a wave of meltdown Shanks. These are exploder shanks which have very tough arc shields that will explode after 20 seconds from spawning in. This is when the ether shield user becomes very important, as they will need to pop an ether shield bubble, with every team member standing inside the radius as it pops up, because as mentioned before, you cannot walk in or out of it. When the shanks finally explode, they will clear the room of anyone or anything, including other enemies, and then fresh waves will spawn and the fight will resume. Anyone caught outside the bubble will die and require a revive after the usual 30 seconds. The spots in which the shanks explode will be covered in a blue, lightning-filled AoE, much like the fanatics in Vault after they die. Anyone who steps in these blue AoEs will take double damage from arc weaponry for 30 seconds, so try to avoid them. The fight will carry on in this fashion until the control shank is finally destroyed. As it dies, the shielded cannon will despawn and a large gate behind the shank will open up, leading onto the jump pad that will take you to the final encounters on the ship's bridge. Pilot Servitor and the King of Kells. As the fire team run through the now open door, they will shortly come across a mob of dregs and vandals, being backed up by 2 Royal Guard vandals. Much like the shield-bearing vandals, they are equipped with shields and throwing spears. However, they are capable of teleporting as well, much like a captain. They are guarding a gravity lift, much like the one found in the Shadow Feast strike, which when all the enemies are defeated will activate, allowing you access to the bridge. Once you step onto the bridge, you will be greeted by the sight of Earth with the bridge's main window, and in front of it stands a gigantic throne made for a Kell. Upon this throne sits the King of Kells, Dragoryx, the mysterious figure leading the House of Kings. Dragoryx is only spoken of in hushed, reverent tones amongst the fallen, a myth passed down through fallen generations, a great warrior, leader and king. Until the Dreadnought's appearance above Earth, we had little to reason to believe that this figure existed. Now we know differently. However, as soon as you enter the bridge, Dragoryx mockingly laughs at you before a giant purple shield encapsulates his throne and the Royal Guard flanking it. This is where the first boss of this encounter begins. Several waves of fallen will spawn, and after you defeat the first wave, from the ceiling, the Dreadnought's Pilot Servitor descends. This fight functions very much like the Pilot Servitor from the prison, however its health and damage is scaled to fight a party of 6 Guardians. However, the longer the Servitor is alive, its eye will grow slowly redder as the fight goes on, making it do more damage with each shot, incentivizing its quick and speedy destruction. As the Servitor is destroyed, the force shield protecting the Kell dissipates, with Dragoryx getting up from his throne, throwing a string of falling curses at you. As Dragoryx stands up from his throne, he pulls out a shrapnel launcher, and will follow the fire team around the bridge, attempting to kill them. You'll have a purple aura surrounding him. This is due to 2 Servitors in the room buffing him, much like the Servitors in the Skolas fight. When the Servitors are destroyed, he will become vulnerable to damage for 30 seconds before the Servitors will self-repair and carry on buffing him. However, when they revive, they will stop buffing his health and will instead buff his damage by 200%, making avoiding his shots all the more important. He can take damage in this state, but will be advised to avoid this as he becomes twice as aggressive, charging the fire team until the Servitors are destroyed again. 30 seconds later, the Servitors will repair again and go back to buffing his shields until they are knocked down. They will swap between defensive and offensive buffs each time they are destroyed. All the while this is happening, waves of fallen enemies are swarming into the room alongside more of his Royal Guard to provide obstacles as well as super energy and ammo from kills. When 25% of Dragoryx's health has been removed, he will throw away a shrapnel launcher, pulling out 4 shock pistols, 1 in each arm, firing in rapid fire. The damage taken from this would be akin to being hit by a heavy machine gun barrage due to his fire rate. After another 25%, he will throw the pistols away and whip out a Scorch Cannon. Once his health has been reduced yet again by another 25%, he will teleport to his throne, throwing away his Scorch Cannon. As he does this, his back arms draw a giant shock blade from his back. The sword can be best described as a shock claymore due to its size. At this, the Servitors permanently deactivate and the final leg of the fight begins. Dragoryx will roar. At this, one random party member will be made the target of the Kell's wrath, receiving a debuff. They'll be slowed down to a crawl as Dragoryx slices his way towards them, killing anyone in his way. You have roughly 10 to 20 seconds, depending on where he is, to remove the debuff from your team, much like removing Devouring Essence in the Prison of Elders. However, you will not take on the debuff like you do in the Skolas encounter. He will do his best to strike you down until he chooses another target. This will carry on for the rest of the fight, until finally, after much hectic retreating and tactical manoeuvring, Dragoryx will fall, his minions phasing out, the ship will fall silent, and the final set of loot will be rewarded. The King of Kells has been defeated, and the city has been saved from a terrible battle that may have seen its end. So that's it for my raid. I tried my best to make sure there's a balanced experience that would be challenging over a nice mix of chaotic firefights, like in Crota's End, and the more mechanics-driven gameplay in the Vault of Glass. I hope that in the future Bungie adds a raid to the Fallen, as they are my favourite race out of the current 4. I think the lore surrounding them is fascinating, and there's so much you could do with them in a raid setting outside of what I described today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know I did, writing and editing it. If you have any suggestions as to how it could be made better, or if you have any similar ideas for your own raids, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your ideas. And Bungie, if you see this video, it's on me. Enjoy your freebie. Until then, see you guys in the next video.